Sir Piers is a coward. And if I went on with him, like when I went on with him last time, he can't win the argument or the debate.
I think I've been naive all my life. It's not till now I just go, why do we trust them? Of course we shouldn't trust the people in charge. That's how they're in charge. They shouldn't be trusted.
Imagine a country where speaking your mind could land you in jail while serious crimes go unpunished. According to Tommy Robinson, that's the reality of modern Britain. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great. Thank you so much. Now, back to the video, but don't take his word for it. We've dug deep into the statistics, and what we've found paints a troubling picture of misplaced priorities and selective justice. Are you ready to see the numbers that the government doesn't want you to know? In a twist that could rival the most gripping political thrillers, Tommy Robinson, the controversial figure known for his frequent run-ins with the law and the establishment, has managed to send shockwaves through Westminster from behind bars. It's not every day that a prison phone call becomes the talk of the town. But when Robinson's voice crackled through the line, little did anyone know it would ignite a firestorm of debate and scrutiny. Robinson, never one to mince words, launched into a scathing critique of Keir Starmer, the Labour Party leader who's been positioning himself as the voice of reason in British politics. But if Robinson's allegations hold any water, that carefully cultivated image might be nothing more than a house of cards. The accusations weren't just personal jabs or petty grievances. They struck at the heart of Starmer's political record and decision-making.
The hotels need to be emptied. That's not a minority view, it's a majority view. These barbarians have been welcomed into our nation by our politicians who are raping, pillaging and murdering
The hundreds of thousands of people who have gathered peacefully with smiles on their faces to send a message to the communist tyrants in power.
Among the most explosive claims, Robinson alleged that Starmer had consistently failed to address the concerns of working-class communities, particularly when it came to issues of immigration and cultural integration. He painted a picture of a leader out of touch with the very people he claims to represent, suggesting that Starmer's polished exterior hides a politician more concerned with maintaining the status quo than effecting real change. But it wasn't just domestic policy that came under fire. Robinson's tirade touched on foreign policy blunders, questionable financial decisions, and what he described as a pattern of broken promises that stretched back to Starmer's time as Director of Public Prosecutions.
When you have the state decide who is a journalist, we're in communism. Yeah? When they start only allowing certain people to make reports, no, that's not what Great Britain is.
Feelings are personal. Some people are offended by equality. So what? You know, so you can't second guess people. If you try and please everyone, you'll please no one.
Each accusation seemed designed to chip away at the foundation of trust that Starmer has been trying to build with the British public. As news of the call spread, social media exploded with a mix of outrage, skepticism, and calls for investigation. Hashtags related to the incident trended for days, with supporters of Robinson amplifying his message and critics rushing to Starmer's defense. Political commentators found themselves in the unusual position of having to seriously consider the words of a man many had previously dismissed. The Labour Party's initial response was a terse no comment, but as the story gained traction, they were forced to address the allegations head-on. Starmer himself appeared on several news programs, attempting to refute Robinson's claims point by point, but for many viewers, the damage was already done. The seed of doubt had been planted, and Starmer's rebuttals, no matter how logical, seemed to lack the raw emotional punch of Robinson's prison call.
All of these people, these elitists, these 1%, they don't give a shit. None of them care.
I apologise. People are eating their tea. Fucking slagging off the government, Christmas, just life in general.
Just when Labour thought they'd weathered the storm, a new player entered the fray, armed not with policy papers, but punchlines. Ricky Gervais, the razor-tongued comedian known for skewering Hollywood's elite, turned his attention to Westminster, proving that sometimes it takes a jester to expose the emperor's new clothes. Gervais's unexpected foray into political commentary began with a series of biting tweets. Starmer's about as in touch with the working class as I am with quantum physics, he quipped, garnering thousands of retweets within minutes. But it wasn't just empty mockery. Gervais followed up with a lengthy Instagram post dissecting Starmer's record with the precision of a seasoned political analyst. The comedian's critique centered on what he called the Great British Political Pantomime. He pointed out the absurdity of a system where a man behind bars could cause more waves than those in power. If Tommy Robinson is your voice of reason, you've got bigger problems than just Starmer, Gervais noted, managing to criticize both sides in a single breath. But it was Gervais's takedown of Starmer's attempts at damage control that really struck a chord.
Elon Musk, if you hadn't given me back my platform, then the world wouldn't be able to have seen that I was innocent. The world wouldn't be able to see the importance of citizen journalism.
When are we going to stop taking went to Eton as a qualification to run the country? I mean...
Watching Keir try to explain away Robinson's accusations is like watching a magician pull rabbits out of a hat, except the rabbits are dead and the hat's on fire. He joked. The analogy, while humorous, highlighted a serious point about the Labour leader's perceived inability to connect with voters. Gervais' massive following, over 14 million on Twitter alone, amplified his message far beyond the reach of traditional political commentators. Suddenly, people who'd never shown interest in politics were discussing Starmer's record and Robinson's allegations. The comedian had accomplished what countless op-eds and news segments had failed to do. He'd made British politics not just accessible, but unavoidable.
Every single chat show, police officers, politicians, they're all telling you, the British public, that I've incited and instigated the violence on the streets of the UK.
We want Keir Starmer to be looking out that window, because you know the intentions of all of his actions of locking everybody up.
The response from the political establishment was a mix of bewilderment and panic. Some MPs attempted to dismiss Gervais as just a comedian, but this only played into his hands. "Yes, I'm just a comedian," he fired back. "And you're just politicians who can't even outperform a bloke with a Netflix special." As the dust settled, it became clear that Gervais had fundamentally altered the conversation. What began as a fringe issue, a controversial figure making claims from prison, had become a national talking point. More importantly, it raised questions about the role of entertainment figures in shaping political discourse. The combined impact of Robinson's accusations and Gervais's commentary has laid bare a deep-seated distrust in British political institutions. This isn't just about Keir Starmer or the Labour Party anymore. It's a stark reflection of a wider public sentiment that the entire political system is failing to address their concerns. The old guard of Westminster finds itself under siege, not just from the usual critics, but from unexpected quarters like comedy and even prison cells.
Because they have no evidence to say I've instigated the riots or encouraged in any way. There's no evidence. Evidence doesn't matter when they have the mainstream media. They just hammer you continuously with lies.
I've been naive all my life. It's not till now I just go, why do we trust them? Of course we shouldn't trust the people in charge. That's how they're in charge.
As the dust settles on this political earthquake, the British public is left grappling with uncomfortable questions. How did we get to a point where a comedian and a controversial figure behind bars seem more in touch with public sentiment than elected officials? The calls for greater transparency and accountability from leaders are growing louder by the day. It's as if the facade of competent governance has been stripped away, leaving voters to confront the stark reality of a system that may be fundamentally broken.